Joan Marie Lambert was born on November 7th of 2093 in Arkansas and was originally born a male. Lambert underwent discreet convert sexual realignment at birth for undisclosed reasons. After growing up in her hometown of Arkansas, Joan Lambert studied astronavigation at the Florida Aeronautics Institute, graduating with a high-class rating in FTL navigation. After her graduation, Lambert immediately picked up work as a navigator aboard the commercial towing vessel Nostromo, which would be both her first and last job in a very short career path. One day on the journey back to Earth with a full payload, the Nostromo drops out of FTL around the Zeta 2 reticuli system. This automatically woke the crew and Lambert along with the rest of the senior officers, and they found their way to the bridge. They eventually come to discover that the ship had not in fact reached the solar system yet, and had in fact fallen short. Captain Dallas informs them all, however, that this was not without reasons, as the ship had detected a foreign signal emanating from the moon known as LV-426. Lambert listened in on fellow crew members Brett along with Parker, as they were determined to continue back to Earth and not fuss about the current situation. However, the science officer Ash reminded them that unless they undertook this investigation of the signal, they would be subject to a complete contract retraction, which meant they would not be paid. With this information, the crew eventually decided the best decision would be to land the ship and comply with company regulations. They landed the Nostromo on the moon of LV-426, where Captain Dallas informs Kane and Lambert that they will be accompanying him in search of the signal's location. After a rough and damaging landing on the harsh world of LV-426, Dallas leaves the ship under the control and the command of Ellen Ripley, as crew members Lambert and Kane and himself don the spacesuits and venture into the planet's toxic atmosphere in order to track down the source of the signal. Eventually, after what seemed like hours of slowly making their way through strange outcroppings of rock across the planet's surface, they saw it. Before their eyes was a massive alien structure. Lambert looked upon it and its strange architecture. As she did, a slight chill ran down her spine. The suits were heated, but nevertheless, it was something unexplainable. She felt cold. Once the three made it to the ship, they entered through an oval opening in the ship's outer hull, while sending all these events in video form back to Ash aboard the Nostromo, who was constantly monitoring their progress. They eventually make their way into the ancient-looking ship, and Lambert paces in tow with the others as they slowly and cautiously move through the curving corridors that appeared to be of organic design. After some time, they came upon an opening in the hallway, and the three walked in. They were greeted by a large and cavernous room surrounding them. At the centre, a massive structure that rose above the darkness. It wasn't until they edged ever closer that they saw its colossal being. Its appearance indicated it to be long dead. It showed signs that it had grown into or from its chair. Lambert's spine turned from slightly cool to a full chill as she gazed upon the gigantic alien creature. The massive size instilled fear. Fear was what came over her at that moment as they investigated further. Eventually they discovered that something had killed the creature by bursting through its chest area. But what could have done this? Soon the crew discover a hole in the floor of the platform where they had been standing on, and eventually decide to send Kane down to investigate via a winch system. Lambert waits by Dallas as Kane ventures down into the hole. Soon he begins to report that there is little visibility. Lambert heard Kane fall and then listens to him report that there is an array of egg-like objects below, surrounded by a blue static mist. Sometime after, there is a strange screech, followed by a sizzling and then a silence. Dallas and Lambert winch him up, and to their utter shock, Kane was unconscious, with a strange alien parasite attached to his face. They rushed his body back to the Nostromo, and were able to produce a makeshift stretcher to make this situation easier. The whole time Lambert fumbled and found it hard to look away from the creature on Kane, despite the utter shock she gained in doing so. Once making it back to the ship, Dallas calls for the rest of the crew to let them inside. However, crew member Ripley refused, as she cited that it would be a quarantine breach to allow them in before a 24-hour safe period. This angered an already frightful and agitated Lambert, so Lambert was already dealing with a substantial amount of stress from the events and her fear for both her life and that of Kane. She knew that if they remained in quarantine, they would be dooming themselves with this creature. Eventually, Ash, though, goes against Ripley's better judgment, opening the door to them, and once they are aboard, they quickly got Kane to the medical bay. Dallas ordered Brett and Parker to get the ship moving, although repairs had not been fully completed. Once again docked with the ship, they continued their journey home. Arriving at the infirmary with Kane, the group is met by Ash, and the other remaining crew accumulate in the halls. Lambert waits outside the medical bay, staring in at the horrific reality of what was happening to Kane. At that moment, Ripley entered the hallway. A still angered and riled up Lambert slapped Ripley across the face in an outburst of emotion for thinking that she had the right to lock them outside their own ship. Parker separates the two, and Lambert eventually calms down slightly. Dallas worked with Ash as they tried to remove the creature attached to Kane's face by pulling it off, which resulted in the creature tightening its grip around his throat. Their final attempt to remove the creature involved trying to cut the creature from Kane's face. However, this proved a mistake as a stream of molecular acid surged through the decks of the ship, neutralizing just short of the hull of the ship. With this new revelation, the crew disperse, as Ash decides that other possibilities have to be considered. Lambert felt useless for the time being, and paced around the interior of the ship, still stressed out at the fact that an alien organism was aboard their ship and could be doing quite literally anything to Kane. A few hours after, Ash called the whole crew to come back to the medbay. However, this time there was much more positive news. It is revealed to Lambert and the crew that Kane has awakened and appeared to be fine. Lambert was still worried about what happened to the creature, and Ash informs them all that it was quite dead. They all converse and begin joking around, while Kane then recounts his coma-like dream of a smothering feeling befalling him, which made Lambert feel quite uneasy. They all decide to celebrate with one last supper, before re-entering their cryo-sleep chambers on the way back to Earth. As they all sit and enjoy their meals, Kane and Parker joke around and make a snood joke at Lambert's expense, as she tries to blow off their remarks, but finds herself smirking at it anyway. However, the friendly gathering quickly turns strange. Kane begins choking and spluttering, eventually becoming more violent. Lambert attempted to hold Kane, but is quickly moved out of the way by Ash, who is trying to force a spoon into Kane's mouth to stop him from biting his tongue or breaking his jaw as his spasms increase. But this proves to be a useless action. Suddenly, a spray of blood covers the inside of Kane's shirt. It happened so randomly and so suddenly, Lambert, she let out a squeal. Her heart was racing. What possibly could be happening to Kane right now that this creature caused? This was crazy. But things only got worse in the moments that followed, as everyone around her began trying again to restrain him, there was another push from inside Kane's ribcage, which fully broke it open outwards. It was by the force of an alien creature that violently pushed its way out of Kane's body, now leaving him there to die. As Lambert stood to the side, she was sprayed with a jet of thick, hot blood all over her face and upper body, during the creature's ferocious rampage to escape its host. After being covered in her own crew member's blood, Lambert let out a horrible scream and stood stunned afterwards, just gazing into the distance, not even able to concentrate with the thought that she was covered in another human's blood. She slowly looked down at Kane and saw his murderer. The creature scuttled off into the distance with a shearing speed, as the crew and Lambert remained stunned. After these events, the crew prepare a short memorial service for Kane before his body is ejected into space. Brett, Parker and Ripley are ordered to go in search of the creature. However, only Ripley and Parker make it back. They lost Brett, but did find some useful information on their journey, that the alien was using the air vents around the ship to move around, so they plan a trap for the creature. The idea was to flush the creature into the main airlock using a flamethrower used by someone in the vents, at which point it would be jettisoned into space. Dallas eventually decides to brave the vents, as Lambert watched Dallas grab a flamethrower and begin to crawl through. Lambert sat at the entrance with the others, monitoring his movements and any potential movements of the Xenomorph with a motion tracker that Ash had put together. As he moved further and further away from the crew, he ordered Ripley to close all air shafts behind him. Lambert gave him directions, but all of a sudden a malfunction occurred in their tracking. Once Lambert got the device working properly again, they saw that the alien was now fast approaching Dallas. Lambert could see that Dallas was going to have a run-in with the creature and directed him so that he would not encounter it. However, he wouldn't listen, and as the creature got closer, Lambert became more and more hysterical. She watched as the alien organism approached Dallas, as everyone else was sent into a fumbled mess of yelling and stressing. Lambert viewed the screen, and she told Dallas that the creature was right there with him, and after this, his radio went silent. Just like that, Dallas was gone. After the crew come to terms with this event, Lambert implores that the remaining crew abandon the ship and take the escape shuttle, Narcissus, to get the hell out of here, as she was being more and more frightened by the creature's rampage through the lives of those aboard. Lambert attempted to convince them that even though there was only one stasis pod, they could take turns in one, hoping to eventually be picked up. Despite this, Ripley insisted that killing the alien would solve this problem. However, as they make preparations, Ripley is attacked by Ash, who is revealed himself to be an android sleeper agent. He attempts to kill Ripley, but Parker fights him for a time, however is bested. Lambert, who is the one that takes him down, uses a cattle prod in his back to disable him. Briefly after recovering, Lambert and the rest of the two crew reconnected Ash to get answers. He told them of Special Order 937 and pointed out the futility of fighting this creature. The three remaining survivors agreed to destroy the ship and make their escape to Lambert's joy. However, they would need to collect a large amount of coolant for the shuttle's life support system. If they were to survive so long taking turns in the cryosleep chamber, they would need this coolant. And so Lambert and Parker went to the Nostromo's lower decks to collect supplies, while Ripley primed the ship's self-destruct system to kill the alien after they had left. Whilst gathering coolant in the lower decks, the two crew members were so hasty in their attempts to grab up as much as they could, as quickly as they could, they didn't even notice the entrance of the alien creature. Lambert was standing at the back of the room when she noticed a moving shadow. She first presumed that it was Parker. However, as time went on, she heard Parker much further away. The closing shadow moved in. She looked at the wall where the shadow was projected, and she began to panic. Turning around slowly, she saw it. In the flesh. Tall, black, strangely shaped with a number of mechanical-looking structures protruding from its form. Lambert gazed upon the creature, frozen with terror. She found herself unable to run. A sheer terror flooded over her. She saw Parker take notice, and he called for her to move. She would very much have liked to. She even tried to be able to move her feet, but she couldn't do it. Left with no choice, Parker rushed at the creature. But it was so strong, it grabbed him and swiftly ended his life. The alien quickly turned its attention back on the paralysed Lambert. It slowly moves towards her, as if it knew that it would scare her enough to her core to stop her there. It stopped just in front of her and slowly raised its tail between the two of her legs, as if it found joy in the ever-increasing terror it brought to Lambert. Suddenly, it began a vicious barrage of strikes with its tail, again and again and again. It mutilated her body whilst not hitting any areas that would kill her outright. It stabbed and slashed at her body, tearing her to shreds. It attacked her legs, her stomach, her vagina, and tore it open. It then proceeded to recreate the action through her mouth, tearing it to shreds. It gave one last strike to the head, which left a gaping hole in her head. It then strung her tattered corpse up from the ceiling. In a horrific mess of violence, Lambert's fear had ended. Lambert was a very anxious person, and it is likely that she suffered from an anxiety disorder, as seen in the hyperactivity she can show during stressful situations, and her nervousness was her great downfall. She could become overwhelmed to the point where the fear she felt overtook all logic and function. She was a reserved person, choosing to remain in the norms of her life and did not do anything out of the ordinary, or at least did not wish to. This conflicted with certain orders of hers aboard the Nostromo, as she reluctantly joined Dallas and Kane to investigate the Nostromo on LV-46. Her fear and anxiety would bubble over as Ripley locked them outside the ship, causing a violent outburst from Lambert to her at their next meeting. Lambert failed to save her life due to that very fact, that she could not overcome fear. When it came down to survival, had she been able to move away from the creature as it attacked Parker, maybe there would have been time for her to run, or even if she had moved beforehand, Parker may have been able to flamethrower it. Fear led to her panic, which would lead to ill decisions such as attacking Ripley, freezing to the alien, and even her idea of taking turns in the status chamber in the Narcissus escape shuttle instead of dealing with the problems with the others at hand. The fear she let consume her ultimately led not only to her downfall, but that of others. Dallas was also panicked, and Lambert did nothing but scream and yell in fear as the Xenomorph approached him. Parker as well may have been spared, had he been able to torch the alien before either of them had been subjected to it. All she had to do was move. But that's basically it for this video, guys. If you have anything you would like to add to this video, if you have any ideas for further videos, if I missed out something, or you just want to talk to me about something, please go down to the comment section. I always reply to every comment. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like. If you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing here on the channel, you can follow me on Twitter. I have a private Discord page, and you can just subscribe and hit the bell icon. If you want to support me further and get access to behind the scenes content and early content from me, you can sign up and become a Patreon and support us further that way. But that's basically it for this video, guys, so I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.